Oh yeah, look at this guy. He's got a blue helmet. Wouldn't you? I mean, you get to be a part of one of the most powerful armies that have ever existed on Earth. You get to ride around on horses and carry a sword. You get to order around a whole bunch of other guys that carry a sword. It sounds like a cool job. And besides, look at that red cape. Isn't that cool? That guy's ready to take charge. But what I want to ask you isn't so much like, do you want to be one? What kind of characteristics do they have that we might want to emulate? Because you might remember in the New Testament that at the same time, a lot of people were being called out for their lack of faith and for not getting it, including the disciples at times, right? There's times where Jesus is saying to the disciples, like, how long am I going to put up with you guys? Because you guys just aren't getting it. There's cases where people who were centurions were called out for being people of great faith and really having it together, having the right idea. And I kept coming across a couple of these stories as I was preparing for the message this week. So I thought we'd look at a couple of those stories and kind of see what characteristics they have and what made them actually make it into the Bible as people of great faith. So a little about them. So they were part of the Roman army at this time, which was the greatest army on earth at the time and one of them that's ever existed. And as you can tell from their name, centurion, which sounds like century, as in 100, they were each in charge of 100 guys. They had 100 guys that they were commanding. You've heard of the Roman legions. So a legion was 6,000 guys. And then they were divided up. They had 60 of these centurions that were each in charge of 100 guys. And they had to be really great, kind of trustworthy guys. You know, guys that could get things done. Men of action. You know, like if something needed to get done, they're going to go make it happen. Because if you think about it, the whole of the Roman Empire depended on these guys and their ability to get things done. Polybius, who was a guy that just wrote and lived around the time of the early church fathers, said that centurions were chosen by merit, and so were men remarkable, not so much for their daring courage as for their deliberation, constancy, and strength of mind. So like I said, we'll look at a couple of these guys and see if we can determine some things about, you know, why they were called out for being people of great faith. So Matthew chapter 8 is the first section. When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help. Lord, he said, my servant lies at home paralyzed and in terrible suffering. Jesus said to him, I will go and heal him. The centurion replied, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was astonished and said to those following him, I tell you the truth, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subject of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then Jesus said to the centurion, go, it will be done just as you believed it would. And his servant was healed at that very hour. And so I think that there's kind of three characteristics that we can draw from this passage that are shown by this guy that might be really important. I think he's a man of humbleness, a man of faith / kind of action, and a man with real heart. The humbleness comes in immediately. You can see that pretty easily, right, in this passage. In that, like, he comes to Jesus for healing, but he's kind of like, you know, Jesus, you're important, you've got stuff to do, I'm not even worthy for you to come into my room, you know? So why don't you just say the word, and I know that you can send, you know, your angels or whatever you got to do over there to heal my servant, and we'll just get that done that way. So he is showing some real humbleness. But let's talk honestly for a minute, because I think this is kind of remarkable because of the fact that this is a guy that's a part of the most powerful army on earth, right? And you kind of got some things going on. I mean, you got 100 guys that will do anything you say jump, and they say how high. He's got a whole house full of servants that it's the same way you tell them to go, and they go. And he's a guy that's got some stuff going on, you know? So it would be really easy to just be really full of yourself, I think. Or to just be kind of a huge jerk, you know? It really would. And in spite of those facts, here we've got a guy that shows a great deal of humbleness. And man of faith/action. I kind of put those two things together because one of the things that we get wrong in America is when we read the New Testament and we read stuff about faith, quite often the word as it's translated from the Greek means both belief and action, or faith and action. Like those two things are almost married completely together. But one thing we get wrong sometimes is we think belief or faith is about, like, we can sit here and think stuff in our head, and if we're just thinking the right thing, that's what faith is all about, or that's what belief is all about. You know, if I just really am believing a certain thing. But quite often when we read these things, these passages in the New Testament, those are almost together in that same word faith, belief and action, or faith and action. They're so tightly together at that point that they're not really separate things. And we can see that in this guy here, because we don't know exactly what he knew of Jesus, but you know, we can kind of think that maybe what he knew of Jesus' power to heal and stuff probably just kind of came through the grapevine. You know, he might have heard, oh, this person was sick and now they're better, this person over here, or yeah, there's this guy that was blind and now he can see. And you know, it's possible that he didn't have real first-hand knowledge of this, but yet he's called out here for his faith. He has a need and he just says, okay, I'm going to go find Jesus and we're going to get this done. And I think maybe what plays into this a little bit is that he is a person of action. You know what I mean? He's not taking a lot of time to sit and mull it over, or to second guess, or to sit and say, oh, I heard about this Jesus guy, I wonder if he can do it or not. Maybe he can, maybe he can't. I don't know. It just seems as though he's very intent on the action. You know, there's a need here, okay, let's go get it done. And I think that works into his faith a little bit. We don't see a lot of questioning. We see a guy that's going out there to get it done. And I think we can, if we read between the lines a little bit, we don't have to a great deal, I think we can see that he was a man with real heart. And when you read this, notice it says, my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly. You know, it's not his kid. It's not his wife. It's a servant, someone that serves him. And he seems to care a lot about this person, because he comes and says, Lord, my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly. And it's almost like, I almost picture this as being at that point that he's upset enough, he almost forgets to ask Jesus to heal him. And in my version that I have here, he says this, and Jesus says back to him, it's almost like, so what do you want me to do? Like, shall I come and heal him? Is that? And I picture that almost he was upset enough that he kind of, kind of laid it all out there and then went, he's suffering. And, okay, Jesus is saying, well, do you want me to do something? And did you come to ask me for something? And so apparently it seems this person who's a servant, and it'd be no big deal to find another servant to take care of whatever job he has. He's got lots of servants. He has 100 guys that will do whatever he asks them to do at any given moment. So if he needs someone to take care of whatever that person did, it was no big deal to find someone else to take care of it. If he needs someone else to get his coffee and paper in the morning, there's a bunch of people around that can do that for him. But he seems to really care and have a relationship with this person who's a servant. And the other thing that I think really points to this fact is, and he said himself in this passage, he's got all kinds of people that will go and do things for him if he asks. But he didn't send anyone. He came there himself to find Jesus. It would have been really easy to just say, hey, you, go find that Jesus guy because we've got a sick servant. Can you just go get it for me? He was surrounded by people who would do that for him. But yet, despite that fact, he went there himself. And so I think these are some characteristics that we can draw from this that it would be great for us to try to strive for in any way. And I want to look at another guy too, who once again is a centurion. And jumping ahead in the New Testament to Acts 10, this is about Cornelius. At Caesarea, there was a man named Cornelius, a centurion in what was known as the Italian regiment. He and all his family were devout and God-fearing. He gave generously to those in need and prayed to God regularly. One day at about 3 in the afternoon, he had a vision. He distinctly saw an angel of God who came to him and said, "Cornelius." Cornelius stared at him in fear. "What is it, Lord?" he asked. The angel answered, "Your prayers and gifts to the poor have come up as a memorial offering before God. Now send men to Joppa to bring back a man named Simon, who is called Peter. He is staying with Simon the tanner, whose house is by the sea." When the angel who spoke to him had gone, Cornelius called 2 of his servants and a devout soldier who was one of his attendants. He told them everything that had happened and sent them to Joppa. And then, if you remember right, at this same time, while this is going on over there, over where Peter is, he's had that vision from God about the sheep coming down from heaven with all the animals in it. And the Lord says, "Kill and eat." And he's saying, "No, Lord." And God's trying to kind of tell him about the redemption and everything going out into the Gentile nations. And at first he kind of resists, if you remember, and then kind of gets the idea then after a little bit here of what God's trying to tell him. So jumping ahead into verse 23. And so they went to get Peter. Then Peter invited the men into the house to be his guests. The next day Peter started out with them, and some of the brothers from Joppa went along. The following day he arrived in Caesarea. Cornelius was expecting them and had called together his relatives and close friends. As Peter entered the house, Cornelius met him and fell at his feet in reverence. But Peter made him get up. "Stand up," he said. "I am only a man myself." And I think we can look once again that this guy here kind of possesses some of these same attributes. First off, humbleness. You can see that in the end of that passage, right? Because as soon as Peter shows up at his house, he falls right down at his feet. He's almost like bowing down to him. And Peter's like, "Dude, like, get up. I'm just another guy like you are, you know? I know you hold me in great esteem, but, don't bow down in front of me." See, it shows a great deal of humbleness. Man of faith. We see that once again in this passage here. Although I think in his case, it required, more action right away. Not quite as much faith, because I think, at least as we think of it, because I'd like to think that if an angel came and stood in front of me and told me to do something, that I would immediately do that, And, he's asked to do something by God and just immediately goes to do it and take care of it. And then there's another thing in this passage which kind of goes towards being a man of faith and the person and a man with the kind of heart he had. And that was the fact why he was selected in the first place. It said in there that he had been noticed by God for his prayers and his gifts to the poor. Which is a really great thing if you think about, would you like to be singled out by God for how much you give to the poor and for your prayer life? For God to just, point at you and say, "Hey, I've noticed what it is that you're doing." It's that good. And he gets singled out because of that. Shown to be a man of great faith and with a real heart for people. I think the other thing that sort of points to the fact that you might be a person of a real good heart is that when Peter's going to show up to give this message from God, he goes and gets everyone. He could just sit there and wait for him, but it's kind of like he wants everybody he knows to come and hear this message. So he grabs them and gathers them all together and says, "Everybody, come on, come over to my house because this Peter guy's coming out to tell us something from God. And I want all of you to share in this with me, and I want you to hear it with me." So it seems as though there's a common thread of characteristics between at least a couple of these guys that we see in the New Testament. And they're probably things that would be great for us to emulate. I see Cornelius as kind of being the end of a thing, and kind of there was people that were selected by God at the beginning, notably Martha and Mary and Joseph, especially Mary God saying that she was favored by God. It's almost kind of like he's another person that was selected out by God at the end of the process, like of bringing redemption to the whole earth. It wasn't the end, but the end of that section of of what was going on at the time. But then also the beginning of the church, which goes on till today, to spread the church throughout the world and the gospel message. So I want you to think about this message a little bit as going along with one that you heard from Kyle a couple of weeks ago. Do you remember the one where he talked about spending quiet time with the Lord? Do you remember that really uncomfortable 5 minutes where we all sat and thought, this seems like a long time. I don't know if you all have been trying to do that. I have been. Sometimes failing or forgetting, but sometimes getting there. And the thing is, if you really do listen, eventually God's going to lay something on your heart. You know, a need that's somewhere, or maybe He's going to call you to an action. So think of this as a follow-up to that, because this is some characteristics that each of us need to make sure that we have and that we show to be ready to go in some kind of faith and action to take care of whatever it is God lays on your heart. You know, whatever need there is, you know, whether someone's sick, if there's someone you need to go take care of, if there's a ministry you need to begin. And we need to have those characteristics to be ready to go do whatever it is that God's going to lay on our heart once we start listening. So I also encourage you to keep doing that, keep trying. I'll have to admit to myself, I pray a lot. I pray an awful lot. That's a big part of my life. But darn it, it's like I have a hard time just like shutting up and just listening to God. You know, if you hear that, you remember the 5 minutes seemed like a long time to just sit and try to, you know, clear your mind and listen to whatever thing it was that God wanted to tell you or wanted to put on your heart. So that's what I have for you this morning. And now I get to say something that I never ever get to say. Now we're going to pray and I'm going to call the worship team. I thought I'd never say that. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and I thank you for each person here and their gifts and their personality and everything they bring to this body of believers here. And as we go out of here, just help us to show your love and kindness, humbleness to everyone that we encounter. We just thank you for your goodness and mercy in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.